24.2. Last week we did some snatches and some burpees. Then we started to wonder what if we would do some more hinging on week number 2. And surprise, surprise, we got that. We got mostly hinging with a little side dish of double unders. So let's take a look at it. 20-minute AMRAP, as many rounds and repetitions as you can. 300-meter row, same for men and women. 10 deadlifts, 185, 125, and then 50 double unders each round. Now, if you watched the announcement show, you saw that the guys got to that 11th round. You might have also noticed that they both had like one single miss up, a little bit with the rope on Colten Mertens, and then a little bit transition with Justin. And the setup wasn't really optimal. They spent about 10% of the time, about 2 minutes on those transitions, kind of on average. So that means that I think we're going to see the scores of people finishing the 11th round and maybe getting pretty close to finishing that 12th round as well. So it's going to be a lot of work at the high level. But even if you, for example, would hit 6 rounds, it's still we're doing 60 deadlifts and we're doing 300 double unders. So we got a lot of work to do in those 20 minutes. Don't worry, we're going to get through this. Let's go ahead and break it down. Let's take a look at the data from the announcement show to start to make sense of this workout. Now, the first interesting thing to notice is, like I said, the guys spend about 10% of the time, or about 2 minutes, just in the transitions. But they also spend that same time, approximately about 155 or so, doing the deadlifts. So which movement is easier, deadlifts or transitioning? I think the transitioning is a little bit easier, and it's unlikely that you move much faster on the deadlift than the guys did. So we'll definitely look at that setup to find some extra seconds for you. Now the next thing to note is that the rowing was around 60% or little less, 57% or so of the time. They both spent just under 11 minutes on the rower, including that final round where they just got to row only. So majority of the time, if you go far in this workout, will be spent on the rower. And obviously, if you get stuck on the double unders or the deadlift, you will spend more time there. Now, for these guys, the double unders then finally took about 4.5 minutes, a little bit over. So that's about 23% of the workout. So we have this picture where the rowing takes the most time, then the doubles, then the deadlifts, and then the transitions. Each one of these parts matter, of course. The main thing with the rower and the double under and the deadlift execution is going to be consistency, and then the transitions are really about having a good setup and then also pushing yourself to always get started. The final thing I want to say about the analysis is that both guys started a little bit hot and then they had to slow down a little bit, but then they've quickly found a pace that was very sustainable for them. Probably difficult, but they were able to keep it. And this was good pacing. You will, of course, go a little bit hot on the first round. It's just going to happen. But then you need to, on that second round already, you want to start to find where that threshold pace is for the 20 minutes that you can handle. One thing that we can learn from the guys in the announcement show is that you want to challenge yourself, but we need to aim for consistency at whatever level of fitness you have right now. You cannot go at somebody else's pace in a piece like this. So if we look at the row, you can only row as fast as allows you to transition quickly to the next movement. So that might be around your 5K row pace. And if you don't know what that is, you can estimate how fast could I row for that 5K. Take that number and go on the link that we've added to the Concept 2 website where you can put in 300 meters and your 500 meter split, and it shows you how long it would take you at this given pace to complete the 300 meters. This is going to be a really helpful tool to start to formulate your overall plan. How long would a round take me? Don't row so fast that you can't do the other movements. Now, when it comes to deadlift, ideally unbroken. If we have to, 2 sets. If we have to break it more, then we have to break it more, and the pace is going to be a little bit slower overall. You don't want to go anywhere close to failure, especially at the beginning of the workout. If you can, unbroken. Now, the double unders. What I suggest is you rest when you need to. So let's think about this. If you're good at double unders, you're going to go unbroken, and if you miss, you're just going to continue. That's what you have to do to get a good score. Now, however, if you are kind of middle ground on the double unders, or your fitness level is not quite as high as those guys on the announcement show, then what's going to happen is that you will need to rest at some point. Either you're going to fatigue and you're going to trip a little bit more, and then you can take a natural break there, a couple big breaths, big exhales, and continue. Or you're going to get to a point where you're a little bit gassed, you've been pushing a little bit too hard, and you need to rest, ideally a little before that. But what we don't want you to do is say, I'm going to do 20 double unders, and then stop. But you were on a good roll. Just continue. If you're on a good roll on the doubles, just keep going. There will be a place for a natural rest. Okay, you will find it. Trust yourself in there. Just go with the movement. Now, we covered the row. Not so fast, but not so fast that you can't do the other movements. 5K-ish pace. Deadlifts unbroken if you can. Break 2 sets if needed. Double unders, break as needed. Don't do set breakdown. That would be my recommendation. The other thing that you want to think about for this workout as an overview is you want to plan for contingencies. The chances are that your lower back is going to get fatigued. It might even start hurting. Okay, so you want to have a plan for that. We'll talk about execution, how you can change your rowing or your deadlift if you need to. And then the other thing that might happen, the double unders disappear in the middle of the workout. Again, have a plan how you're going to refocus if that happens. Okay, let's take a look at the execution and the setup for these movements. Let's talk about the setup. And this is an example setup that we think could work pretty well with short transition times. So if you're on the rower, you're rowing, you need to stay until you finish the 300, kick your feet up, come back, stand up, deadlift. You can angle the bar how you want to if you want to do some things in here, okay? And then you step here to do the double unders. Now, the one thing that's going to happen with this setup, because you have to show the monitor on the rower, is that you'll be filming from behind. But that's probably going to be okay. You can still count the double unders. Maybe you can find a little bit of an angle where you can show everything still nicely. But this could be nice for transitions. If you have another idea that works well, absolutely fine. Couple details. When you finish the row, make sure that you have someone who's going to come in and reset the row for you, so you don't have to worry about that. If you have hands that get really sweaty when you're exercising, it might be a good idea to have a little towel, maybe some chalk staged here, so when you finish pulling, you know it's going to roll over. You already put the handle down, it's still rolling. You're already drying your hands, kicking out, coming up, you have the chalk. Done. You have a nice smooth transition. So just stage, little towel or a small towel, a little bit of chalk. Make sure you have a helper. Make sure you have a compact setup like this that allows you to transition smoothly. Spend less time in there, more time exercising. Let's talk about the rower. There's a few things to consider. First of all, the damper setting here on the other side. You want to be somewhere between 4 and 7. You can also go in the menu and look at the drag factor and have that between 125 to 135. That's a good starting point for most people. When you're setting up the foot, if you're really high up, it's going to be hard for you to get your foot out. So obviously you have to be in the right ballpark for yourself, but the lower down the pad is, the faster it's going to be to transition in and out. Now for most people, you will not want to strap in. You just want to have these loose so you can get in. Oops la, there we go. You want to get in and get going. You don't want to always be tightening and loosening the straps. If you want to do that, you're going to kick in, pull tight, then start rowing. And when you get out, you're going to flick with your thumbs, out, pull with the feet, kick up and pull out. It's a lot to do. What I'd suggest you have is relatively tight straps that you can get in and out of easily. When you're getting out, you're kicking the feet up and then pulling back. Okay, it's worth practicing that a little bit before so you don't have some weird blooper reel happening in your open workout. Okay, so you have the damper, you have the setup here, you have the straps. Now when you start the row, what I suggest you do is you do partial pulls first, and then you go into your full stroke. Don't worry too much about the stroke rate. Use the stroke rate that you're used to. But what I do want you to think about is not to have a rower that's dirty. We'll touch on that. It's going to make a funny sound. What I do want you to think about is that there's probably about 1 to 2 ratio in the rhythm. So if this takes 1 second, then this would take 2 seconds. When you are going steady, and when you're accelerating, it's about 1-to-1 ratio. So you want to find a good rhythm, good feel, listen to the flywheel, and then the numbers will come. Now, at some point in the workout, your lower back is going to be fatigued, and you might have to change your mechanics. So you might need to switch from, let's say, proper rowing mechanics into more knees out and staying upright, trying to save my lower back rowing. That's okay. If you have to go there, go there. If you lose 5 seconds on the row, but have fast transitions, you can make up that time. Now, the final thing I want to say on the rower is that if you have, I don't know if you can hear this on microphone, but if you have a rower that's dirty, that has a lot of dust inside, before you do this workout, you're spending more than half the time on the rower. So make sure you clean that rower well, put it back together. It's going to be a much easier rower to use. If you don't know how to use it, do it, then hopefully someone can help you. Make sure you have a nice, clean rower that's well oiled, well set up with the nice damper setting. Everything is good here, so then when the workout starts, you can focus on the execution. The deadlift. Now, the biggest thing here that a lot of people will think about is their lower back at some point in the workout. We'll show you something for that, but let's think about the basics first. Stance. Your stance probably is going to be somewhere underneath your hips, unless you need to go wider to get your hips lower and to stay more upright to ease off that lower back. But let's say the default setup, probably underneath the hips. You guys should know the deadlift setup. For the grip, what I recommend in here is use the narrowest grip that you can use because it's going to reduce the range of motion. And also, I recommend holding the bar almost here, but then hooking your thumb over. If you feel comfortable with this grip, it can be quite strong, and it's going to help your hands to stay nice and relaxed. You can kind of just be looser on the deadlift. So I'm going to be grabbing here and deadlift. Now, the other thing to consider once you get the setup right is the basic mechanics. So you don't want to go around your knees. It's very easy when you're rushing the deadlift to start to go around your knees and kind of slam the bar forward. You saw Colten Mertens do a little bit like this on the announcement show. He was fast, but he was losing a lot of efficiency when you compared him to Justin, who had a very nice deadlift mechanic. So you want the bar to go up in a straight line. Now, you want to think about the going up as much as the going down. So on the way down, very easy to start to drive the bar forward. We want to make sure that the hips go back and the knees go backwards. In the end, you guys know how to deadlift. Just giving you a couple basic pointers. Now, the key thing here is that if your lower back starts to go, what can you do? Well, the basic thing is going to be bringing your hips lower. But if you're tight on the hips, this is going to be hard. So a couple of things you can do. Turn your toes out a little bit. Take a little bit wider stance. Okay, your grip might need to go a little bit wider, but you can set yourself up in a much more upright position. And notice how I even shifted my grip to be just like this. These can all be very nice ways to allow yourself to have more room around the hips, to be able to sink your hips lower, get that chest higher, and get some pressure off from that lower back. For the deadlifts, a flat shoe will also help to avoid you pushing forward. And if you need to, a Velcro belt might be appropriate, but for some people, using the belt actually makes things worse. So if you're not used to using a belt, don't use it now. If you're used to using a belt, make sure it's just the Velcro. Make sure it doesn't get in the way of breathing. So you need to be able to ease it up, open it up, and close it back in easily in the middle of the workout. Double unders. This is the one movement that might disappear and then hopefully reappear again in the middle of the workout. We want to give you some tips so that you can stay consistent all the way through and hopefully avoid any kind of panic moments. Now, the first thing to do is to have the right rope for you. So if you're standing on the rope, this is about the height that you want to see. Oftentimes athletes choose too long a rope because it feels easier. Yes, longer rope will give you a little bit of buffer as your hands start to go wider in the middle of the workout. But if you can find that sweet spot of the shortest rope that you can handle even under a little bit of fatigue, it's going to help you move faster and stay more relaxed. On the setup, you want to stay nice and tall. You want to look in front of you about 3 meters or so you can see the rope and your hands in peripheral vision. Shoulders are nice and relaxed. Hands are by the hips. And then elbows are slightly out, palms slightly turned in. It's going to help keep the shoulders relaxed. The movement is going to come from the wrists more in an up and down kind of fashion than doing circles. This is a little more simple movement, easier to maintain under fatigue. When you're jumping from this position, you're going to be jumping straight up and down. Go ahead. with nice and relaxed ankles. We don't want to be bringing the knees up, piking forward, or bending the knees back. All of those things will be inefficient. If you have to do them, if you're just picking up the double unders, do so, but better yet, practice the double unders in the warm-up and try to get these mechanics down. If you panic in the middle of the workout, this basic setup position that we went through with tall posture, shoulders relaxed, hands on the hips, elbows out, palms slightly in, this posture and this position is something you can go back to remind yourself of, okay, I'm going to start from here. And then you can always start the double unders with some singles first and then shift to doubles when you feel more comfortable. Okay, the most important thing we want to make sure you don't do is to panic in the middle of the workout if those double unders miraculously disappear. One more pro tip, if you want to go fast on these, you want to make sure that you're always setting yourself up for success at the end of this round for the beginning of the next one. And that means that when you finish the doubles, and I'm hoping that Eckart's going to nail this, when you finish the doubles, you want to kill the rope underneath your feet and then lay it down so it's going to be easy to pick up. It hopefully looks like this. There we go. So heels down, lifting the feet up, killing the rope under the heels, and then laying it down. It's going to be easy to pick it up on the next round. Good luck with these ones. Let's talk about prep for this workout. So first, fueling. I hope you've been eating enough, especially carbs, in the last few days so that you come in to today with fully replenished glycogen stores. If you haven't, don't panic. You can still have a solid breakfast this morning. Give yourself a few hour break from that before you hit the workout. Okay. The other important thing to consider for this piece is that when you're packing stuff, you're not packing only one, but you're packing ideally 2 skipping ropes, just in case something happens to the other one before the workout starts, or worst case scenario in the middle of the workout. Make sure you have a backup. Now, once you get to the gym, what kind of prep should you do? We're going to use that same framework that we used last week, where we talked about blood flow, range of motion, movement prep, and then cardio. Now, this is the kind of piece where it's going to really benefit you to do a longer aerobic warm-up and get really good blood flow in that posterior chain. So you want to do some kind of a mix probably of, for example, bike erg and rowing, so you don't fatigue yourself too much, but you're getting enough blood flow and you really have enough time to get your cardiovascular system going. So it might mean very easy bike, for example, when you get to the gym, chatting to your buddies before you start the actual warm-up. Now, once you've done the blood flow portion, then the range of motion. What you want to think about in here is especially going to be that hinging on the hip. That's going to be same both in the rowing and on the deadlift. So you want to make sure that you can get into that bottom position of the deadlift or that packed position on the rower without having to round your back, or the best possible position that you can get into today. It's going to really help your lower back in this workout. It's going to also help your hips. Okay, so focus on that. Ankles, if they're tight, will also help on the rower, but minor point. Now, when it comes to the specific movement prep, make sure you check out all the tips that we gave you. Make sure you do the setup, make sure you practice the transitions, do some mock rounds where you're practicing the transitions as you're warming up, get enough repetitions in that you feel comfortable in your deadlift technique, in your double under technique, you feel relaxed, and also in your rowing, okay? That's the time when you dial things in, not in the middle of the workout. And then finally, for the cardio, hopefully at this point you're actually quite hot and sweaty already, but we're still going to do some mini rounds just to practice those transitions a little bit more and also to make sure that your heart rate is elevated enough before you start. It's going to feel like long 20 minutes, but it will be done before you know it. No, it won't, but you will get through this. Good luck. Stay tuned for more content coming this weekend for if you're going to repeat this workout. If you're completely crazy, don't do it. Don't repeat. Hit it hard on the first go. Let's go.